Eleanor sat on the park bench every Sunday, her fingers toying with the edges of her sketchbook. This was her favorite spot, the place where she first saw him. The autumn leaves painted the ground in hues of orange and yellow, and she wondered if he noticed them too. She had no idea who he was, only that he came every Sunday, carrying a worn-out novel. He always sat on the bench under the maple tree, lost in his book, his brows furrowing at times, his lips curving into a faint smile at others. It started months ago, the first time Eleanor saw him. She'd been sketching the trees, but the way the sunlight fell across his face drew her in. She couldn't stop her hand from tracing his features onto the page. His hair, slightly unruly, the sharp line of his jaw, the intensity in his eyes. Before she knew it, her sketchbook was filled with fragments of him. She named him Adrian, though she had no clue if that was his name. It felt fitting somehow. Week after week, Eleanor came back, sketching him from a distance. She didn't dare approach. What would she even say? "Hi, I've been secretly drawing you for weeks because I think you're the most captivating person I've ever seen." That sounded absurd. And besides, he didn't know she existed. One Sunday, as she sat in her usual spot, a gust of wind swept through the park, snatching a loose page from her sketchbook. She scrambled to grab it, but it was too late. The drawing, one of her best, fluttered across the path and landed right at his feet. Her heart sank. She watched, frozen, as he picked it up. His eyes scanned the page, then darted around, searching. When their gazes met, Eleanor's breath caught. He stood and walked toward her, the sketch in hand. "This is me?" he asked, his voice soft, curious. Eleanor's cheeks burned. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "It's beautiful," he interrupted, a small smile playing on his lips. "I'm flattered." She managed a shy nod, unable to meet his gaze for long. "I'm Theo," he said, extending his hand. "Eleanor," she murmured, shaking it lightly. For a moment, hope blossomed in her chest. Maybe this was the start of something. But then, a voice called out, "Theo, over here!" Eleanor glanced past him and saw a woman waving, her smile radiant and familiar. She looked at Theo like he was her whole world, and he responded with the kind of warmth Eleanor had only imagined. "I should go," he said, his expression apologetic. "It was nice meeting you, Eleanor, and thank you for the drawing." He handed the sketch back to her and walked away, leaving her sitting on the bench with her heart heavier than ever. She watched him go, arm in arm with someone else, and realized that sometimes love doesn't ask for permission to take root. It just grows, even when it knows it won't be returned. Eleanor closed her sketchbook and stayed on the bench a little longer, the autumn leaves falling around her like silent witnesses to her unspoken feelings. One-sided love is bittersweet, a connection felt deeply by one and invisible to the other. But even in its loneliness, it carries a strange, quiet beauty, a reminder of the courage it takes to love without expecting anything in return.